I want to tell you about a paradox that's been haunting me lately. The people who seem to have the most in life, the ones who are genuinely fulfilled, genuinely connected, genuinely at peace, they're not the ones who spent their lives grasping for more. They're the ones who gave things away. I know how that sounds. In a world that tells you to hustle, to take what's yours, to secure your bag before someone else does, the idea that giving leads to getting more feels almost naive, maybe even dangerous. But here's the thing. What if we've been thinking about this entire equation backwards? What if the reason so many of us feel empty, despite having more than any generation in history, is because we've been playing the wrong game entirely? Today I want to explore this idea with you, not as some feel-good platitude, but as something deeper, something that might actually explain why your life feels the way it does right now.
Before we get started, check out the link in the description to download our ebook.
Let's be honest about the script we've all been handed. Get good grades so you can get into a good school. Get into a good school so you can get a good job. Get a good job so you can make good money. Make good money so you can buy the things that will finally make you happy. It's a taking mentality. Accumulate, acquire, achieve, and look. I'm not here to tell you ambition is wrong or that wanting things makes you a bad person. That's not what this is about. But I think most of us have noticed something. We reach the milestones. We get the promotion, the relationship, the apartment, the followers, whatever it is. And there's this brief hit of satisfaction, and then it fades, and we're back to wanting more. The treadmill never stops, because when your entire framework is built around taking, around getting, there's never enough. There can't be. The goalpost moves every single time. So what if there's a completely different way to move through the world? There's an old idea that shows up across almost every wisdom tradition. The Tao Te Ching says the sage doesn't accumulate, and yet has abundance. Jesus said it's better to give than to receive. The Buddhists talk about generosity as the first perfection on the path to liberation. These aren't just nice moral teachings. I think they're describing something fundamental about how reality actually works. Think about water for a second. A healthy river flows, gives its water downstream, and because it gives, it makes space for more water to flow in from upstream. But a stagnant pool, one that tries to hold on to every drop, it becomes toxic. It breeds disease. It dies. You are not so different from that river. When you hoard your time, your energy, your knowledge, your love, you're creating stagnation. But when you give, when you let things flow through you, you create space for more to enter your life. I know that sounds abstract, so let me make it concrete. Think about your relationships, the friendships that feel the most alive, the most nourishing. They're not the ones where you're constantly calculating who owes who. They're the ones where both people are freely giving attention, care, presence, without keeping score. And paradoxically, those relationships give you more energy than they take. Or think about work. The people who obsessively focus on what they can extract from their job, the paycheck, the title, the recognition, they tend to be miserable. But the people who focus on what value they can create, what problems they can solve, what they can contribute, those people tend to end up with the recognition and the success anyway. But it comes as a byproduct, not as the goal. Here's what I think is happening. When you're in taking mode, you're in a state of scarcity. You're operating from the belief that there's not enough. And that belief shapes everything. It makes you contract. It makes you protective. It makes you see other people as competition, as threats, as obstacles between you and what you want. But when you give, you're operating from abundance. You're declaring through your actions that you have enough to share. And that shift in your internal state changes everything about how you move through the world. You're more open, more creative, more connected, and people feel that. Opportunities arise from that, meaning emerges from that. The ancient Greeks had a word, Eudaimonia, usually translated as happiness, but that's not quite right. It's more like flourishing, thriving, living in alignment with your highest nature. And according to Aristotle, you don't achieve eudaimonia by pursuing pleasure, or even by pursuing happiness directly. You achieve it by living virtuously, by contributing to something beyond yourself. You flourish by giving yourself to something that matters. The happiness comes as a side effect. Chase it directly, and it slips through your fingers like water. Let me give you some examples of what this looks like in practice. There's a study that I find fascinating. Researchers gave people money and split them into two groups. One group was told to spend the money on themselves. The other group was told to spend it on someone else, and they measured their happiness levels. The people who gave the money away reported significantly higher levels of happiness than the people who spent it on themselves. And here's the kicker. When they asked people to predict which would make them happier, almost everyone guessed wrong. We're terrible at predicting what will actually fulfill us. Look at someone like Kurt Vonnegut. The writer spent years struggling, working in obscurity, but he kept writing, kept creating, kept putting his work out into the world without any guarantee it would lead anywhere. He was giving his creativity, his insights, his time to something beyond himself, and eventually the recognition came. But more importantly, he built a life that had meaning, regardless of the external validation. There's a quote from him that I love. Said, "We are here on earth to fart around." Don't let anybody tell you any different. But underneath the humor, I think he understood something profound. That life isn't about the destination. It's about the quality of presence you bring to each moment. In giving, creating, contributing, that's what allows you to be fully present. Or think about this on an everyday level. You know that feeling when you help someone, genuinely help them, expecting nothing in return? Maybe you take time to really listen to a friend who's struggling. Maybe you share knowledge that took you years to learn with someone just starting out. Maybe you just hold the door for a stranger and offer a real smile. There's a warmth that comes from that, a sense of rightness. And it's not because you're a saint. It's because you've tapped into something true about what it means to be human. We're wired for connection, for contribution, for mattering to each other. So how do you actually practice this? Because the danger here is turning giving into another form of taking. It's giving to get. Being generous because you expect karma to pay you back with interest. That's not what this is about. If you give with expectation, you've missed the point entirely. You're still operating from scarcity, just with extra steps. Here's what I'd suggest. Start small. Look for opportunities to give without any possibility of return. Give anonymously if you can. Leave a generous tip for a server you'll never see again. Send a message to someone whose work has impacted you, expecting no response. Share something valuable online without trying to build your brand. The practice is in the letting go. You give and you release. You don't keep checking to see if it came back to you. You don't keep score. You trust that by creating flow in your life, by being generous with what you have, you're aligning yourself with something larger than your small self. And pay attention to how it feels. Not the external results, but the internal shift. Notice if you feel a little lighter, a little more open, a little more alive. That feeling is the point. That's the abundance I'm talking about. Also, be discerning. Giving doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean saying yes to everything or letting people take advantage of you. Real generosity comes from fullness, not from depletion. You can't pour from an empty cup, so take care of yourself. Fill yourself up. And then let the overflow spill into the world. Start asking yourself a different question. Not what can I get from this situation, but what can I bring to it? Not what's in it for me, but what's mine to give. That simple reframe will change your life. Here's what I've come to believe. The universe operates on reciprocity, but not the kind you can game. Not the kind where you give $1 and demand $1 back. It's subtler than that, more mysterious. When you give genuinely, when you contribute without attachment to outcome, you become a different kind of person. You become someone who opportunities flow toward. Someone people want to help. Someone who feels wealthy regardless of what's in the bank account. You want more in life? Stop trying to take it. Start giving it away. Give your presence. Give your attention. Give your care. Give your gifts. Give without keeping score. And watch what happens. Not because you'll get rich. Not because the universe owes you. But because you'll become the kind of person who is already rich. Already full. Already enough. And from that place, everything else becomes possible. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.